Good morning, everyone. It's time for our KDHL AM Minnesota program. I am indeed honored to have with me this morning on this day before our 250th celebration of our nation's birth, Dan Klusmann. He has compiled a terrific book called Life Answers Back. Great title. This is a book that has 80 contributors in it, various stories that have been gathered over 15 years. And Dan joins me by telephone from Wyoming, right, Dan?
No, you're one state away. I'm in Bozeman, Montana.
Oh, you're in Montana. I'm sorry. I thought you were in Wyoming, but you're in Montana, Bozeman. I went to radio school with a guy who ended up in Bozeman, Montana for his first radio job.
How about that?
Yeah, I don't know if he's still there. We've lost touch when we graduated. So how did you come up with the idea for the book, Dan?
Well, it was almost 20 years ago. As a hobby, I started a website called Life Answers Back. It had a bunch of different areas in it that were all designed to please the viewers. I thought it was going to be a major hit until some stupid site called Life Answers, or Facebook, came out of nowhere, and I still think my site is better in some respects, but again, I'm pretty biased. But anyway, Life Answers Back website featured several different areas, but one of the favorites of the members was the stories that were shared. We picked up a lot of them through the internet, but members actually shared stories. So like for 15 years, we featured these things, and then I got the bright idea, why not take the best of those stories and feature them in a book? Because I knew they all brought pleasure and enjoyment, to the members of our website. So that's where it started, and it seemed like a great idea. And I've been rewarded with a lot of 5-star reviews, and the most common thing people say about the book is, I loved it. So here we go. I'm trying to promote it and make people aware of it, and doing my best. I spent my entire life in the movie theater industry, which is probably the ultimate storytelling business. I had clients in 37 countries around the world where I would let them know the information on the films coming out of Hollywood. So I thought marketing a book should be easy, but I find that it's a lot more competitive than movies ever were.
Yeah. This book kind of reminds me of those chicken soup books.
Yeah, as you mentioned it, I actually visited with Jack Canfield, the co-creator of Chicken Soup, because a lot of people had said that my book was very similar. And Jack, in fact, loved the book. He said if he hadn't just retired and sold the rights, he would love to have published my book.
Wow.
So that made me feel good.
Yeah. No, he was on the show a number of times when they were at their peak, maybe just before they were at their peak.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
well, they ended up pleasing hundreds of millions of people. So
you can't go wrong when you get compared to the best, right?
Right.
Yeah. So your 56 years in the movie business taught you a number of things. What would be the top?
Oh, that's a tough question. It was a love affair from the time I first started working in a theater when I was 16. They gave you free Coke, free popcorn, and you got to work with pretty girls. So I figured I couldn't go wrong. I went to college with pre-engineering, but one day I woke up after failing a calculus test and thought, why am I doing this? Because I love the movie business. So I switched to business and, ended up in a whole life working in theaters, then was the executive vice president of a larger circuit, and then we got bought out by another one in Chicago, and they took me to Chicago as their director of marketing. But I had left my family back in Bozeman and was commuting back and forth as I looked for a home I could afford with good school districts and everything else in Chicago. And I came to the realization that when I found a house, it would be like an hour and a half commute each way, each day. And back in Bozeman, I had 5 minutes and one light that I would have to go through, and I was always upset if I hit that light wrong, so I wouldn't make a good commuter. So I decided to bag it and come back to Bozeman, and that's when I started my own marketing business that, like I said, grew to having clients in 37 countries around the world.
Obviously, you made it a success.
Yeah, no, it's been a good life. I just didn't plan on getting this old this quick. So when I retired, I thought, well, we'll do this book and see how it goes. But it's a learning experience just because it's such a competitive area. What Amazon has over 5 million books that you can buy and like 100,000 or more new ones every week. So it's kind of hard to get your book just to make people aware of it. And that's what I'm doing with some of these radio interviews.
Sure.
Because it's a book that, basically everyone loves. So I owe it to the 80-some authors that are responsible for the stories in there. I feel guilty that I didn't really write it. I put it together. I did a opening and a conclusion. I added some quotations that reflected some of the life lessons that come out of the stories. But everybody loves it, and so I owe it to those authors to try and share their good work with as many people as possible.
Are there any famous authors in your book?
That's a good guy. I haven't gone back through. I don't think there's any famous authors because one of the reasons I was hesitant to publish a book was copyrights. Great stories are usually copyrighted, and I thought, well, I'd run into all sorts of problems there. But when I checked the copyrights on all my stories, there were just several that were copyrighted, so I kicked them out and put other ones in, and so now I have the copyrights to all the stories in my book. But, they're all, they make you laugh. It's a very humorous book, but there's other stories that'll make you cry. I mentioned life lessons because behind a lot of the stories is motivation and inspiration that give you something more than just entertainment. And that's where the title sort of comes from, The Life Answers Back.
I love that title. Did you come up with that, Life Answers Back?
Well, I did way back when I started that website. I think I went through several ideas, trying to find something that wasn't already taken, but that kind of reflected what I was trying to do with the website. And that's what emerged, and it's worked well.
Boy, it must have. Now, Amazon describes your book, a feel-good journey that'll warm your heart and put a smile on your face. So grab a copy, dive in, and get ready to share the laughter and wisdom with your friends.
Well, when I first got the first reviews, I got excited. I thought, hey, this is going to be a easy thing to do because all the critics seem to love it. But again, it's always a challenge to market a book. I think Amazon's book editor said Life Answers Back is not a book that just belongs on a shelf. It deserves a special place in everyone's heart. You hear things like that and you think, hey, I've got a winner here, which I know I do. It's just a matter of my inability maybe to market it the way it should be and let people know about it.
Dan, I have to ask you if you have a favorite story in this book.
Oh, that's a tough one because there's a lot of them that I thoroughly enjoyed. I enjoyed them all. That's why they're in the book. I was asked on a previous interview what my favorites, or if I could read a story out of the book. And for some reason, I chose one of the tearjerkers.
Sure.
And I was reading it, and I felt my eyes watering up and my voice starting to crack. And I thought, you dummy, you've read that story countless number of times. So why did you choose this one? Well, maybe because it impacted me in a way. Deep down, it was one of my favorite stories. And so you never know. So I don't like to read an individual story. I could share some of the points from the different stories. A lot of times I would put a quotation at the end that I thought reflected the life lesson that it gives. Here's a couple I think of. People may not remember exactly what you did or what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. There's humor. There's one I love because being from the movie industry, it says, I don't want to live on in the hearts of my countrymen. I want to live on in my apartment. That came from Woody Allen. Yeah, another one, I prefer not to think when speaking. I like to be as surprised as everyone else by what comes out of my mouth. There's a fun part in there that, it ends with, this conclusively proves the theory that most retirees do not have the brains of a 4-year-old. Now, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's learning to dance in the rain.
Ooh, I like that one.
And I've learned that just one person saying to me, you've made my day, makes my day. And there's a lot of dog stories in there, so I put people love dogs. You can never go wrong adding a dog to the story.
No, that's true. You're absolutely right.
And then, and there's one that kind of wraps up the very purpose of Life Answers Back. It was by Mother Teresa. She said, let no one ever come to you without coming away better and happier. That's what I hope for the book, is when you're done with it, you'll be better and happier.
Well, I've got to take a little market update here, find out how corn and beans are doing in our area, and then we'll come right back. This is about a 4-minute report, okay, Don?
Sure.
He is Mr. Klusmann, Dan Klusmann. He learned that audiences rarely remember explosions or special effects. It's the items that tug at our heart when we feel something that made him to the realization that inspired Life Answers Back. It sounds like a terrific book. I know yours truly is going to be ordering a copy, and hope you guys jump on board as well and read all these uplifting stories about life. Right now, we're going to get that opening market report, a service of your KDHL Agri-Boosters, northlandbuildings.com. Craig Keller at the Keller Insurance Agency in Nerstrand, and Werner Farm Seed in Dundas. This is where I thought we were going to hear a report. And it shows that it's airing, but I'm not hearing it. And if I'm not hearing it, I don't think you're hearing it. Huh.
AM Minnesota on the Mighty 920 KDHL.
Well, I don't understand that, but that gives us more time to visit with Dan Klusmann. Dan Klusmann is the author of a book entitled Life Answers Back. It's a collection of stories gathered over 15 years from more than 80 different contributors. You started with more than 80 stories, I'm guessing, Dan, so how did you weed them out?
I spent a long time just going through all of them and picking them. When I'd see one that I'd liked, I marked it. And like I said, I ended up with about a little over 100 stories, and then checked all the copyrights. And I think there was only 6 of those stories that were copyrighted. So I picked the next 6 favorites, and that's where I went from there. We did have one 93-year-old. When I first started, I tested the book, and they had a 93-year-old buy a book or a copy. And after reading it, he came back and purchased 10 additional copies for his 10 children. So that meant more to me than any of the great reviews. But things like that get you excited when you please people to that point.
Oh, for sure. Now, Dan, what is your all-time favorite movie?
You ask tough questions. Well, there's so many favorites through the years, and I enjoyed some of the early ones, but they kept making movies better and better. I think one of the favorites in the last 20 years was Titanic, and sometimes I would be able to go out to California to the studios in Hollywood, and sometimes the movie producers would come and show their movie ahead of when it was released to the public. And when they would show us these, they were always in a theater with the very latest sound and ability to, envelop you in the experience. And I got to see Titanic in that way, and it just blew me away. When you look at the magic of movie-going, it's pretty impressive.
My all-time favorite movie, It's a Wonderful Life.
Well, you go back a long time.
Yeah.
No, some are just classics. You can watch again and again, and I know what you mean.
But, Dan, that movie originally, I understand, was a flop. It didn't become successful until they started putting it on television in the 60s every year around Christmas time.
I think you're right there. Well, a lot of times the best movies or even the best books don't, take off right from the start. But when word of mouth gets out, and that's what I hope will happen with this one, it'll really start taking off because I know that it pleases everybody that reads it. And there's a couple other bonuses with this book that are different than any other book, because when you purchase the book, you get a free membership to the website, so your enjoyment can be continued throughout the year. So that's a nice bonus from buying a book. And also, I'm trying to work on donating all profit from Amazon sales to benefit worthy causes. So if you purchase a book and you have a school or a church or a local worthy cause that is needing some money for some project, you can just let them know about the book. Pick 1 week where if they buy it from Amazon, all the profit goes to benefit your worthy cause. So that's something that no other book does, but it's a nice touch to have. It's also a great book for gift giving. We all struggle from time to time wondering what to give someone as a gift. And the right gift can mean everything. Life Answers Back delivers pleasure to the recipient, but will also have you feeling good about delivering that pleasure and happiness to them. And isn't that what gift giving is all about?
Well, I would say so. I would agree with you on that. I don't know if you've found this to be the case, Dan, but I've found that usually the movie is not as good as the book.
The challenge with movies is they cannot go into all the detail that's in a book. I've had a lot of books that I thought I enjoyed much more than the movie, but I've also found others where I thought the movie was better than the book because it envelops you with, the sight and the sounds, and you really find yourself immersed in the story more than reading a book over, a week or two. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but they're both wonderful as far as our entertainment.
But I would agree with your premise here that audiences don't remember all the special effects, but they do remember having their heart tugged.
Right. The emotions are a big part, I think, of any movie. And also, I think that's part of why the Life Answers Back is enjoyed so much, because it does touch your emotions. I mentioned the laughter and the tears, but there's also the motivation and the inspiration. So it's just not entertainment. It's when it touches your emotions, then you're anxious to tell other people about it. And maybe, I looked at all sorts of different things to do with the book, and I thought, I'd love to be able to give this to schools for teenagers, because teenagers don't always listen to advice from their parents. But when a good advice emerges from a story that they enjoy, it can impact their lives. I think it's one that I wish I had been able to publish years ago when my kids were teens, because I think they would have learned a lot from it. Oh. And vice versa, too, that you got people that are struggling. You might even talk about people that are in prisons or whatever. If you gave them this book, I think it would have them reevaluating their mistakes in the past, but also inspiring them on what they want to do when they get out. So,
yeah,
go in all sorts of directions there.
Wasn't Charles Dickens in prison?
Was he? I don't remember that. Could be.
Oh, okay. I thought that's where he started getting his inspiration to write stories.
Could be. I don't recall that.
I might have my authors mixed up, too. That can happen as you grow older.
Right.
Life Answers Back is the name of the book. You can order it at Amazon.com. Barnes & Noble has it. Probably wherever your favorite bookstore is, they've got this book, Life Answers Back, a collection of stories gathered over 15 years from more than 80 contributors. Do you have any idea? I mean, have you talked to a professional psychiatrist or something, why uplifting stories are more easily retained than others?
I've never talked to anybody about that, but I think some stories naturally are the ones, if they impact you in some way, then they become memorable. And that's what, I've been asked by book marketers what my target audience is. And when I reply everyone, they look at me in disbelief as if to say, you can't be serious. When I first tested the book, I asked 7 different readers what their favorite story was, and I got 7 different answers. People are different. The stories are different. But when packaged in one book, the result is a very positive experience for everyone. I think the most common descriptive word in its many 5-star reviews is the word joy. The most common phrase I hear is, I love this book. So when you love something, or it impacts you, or you can relate to it, those are the things that you remember, as opposed to just one of the many books or movies that you've watched or read.
Well, obviously there was a connection with Titanic with you. Are you into love stories?
Oh, actually, I do like love stories, but my mother was a British war bride. She actually worked in Bletchley Park, where they broke the Enigma code. She was drafted during World War II. My dad was in the Army Air Corps in London, and so she ended up coming back over here. But when we would return to England to see my grandparents, the first 2 trips were on the ship Mauritania, which is basically pretty much the same as the Queen Elizabeth. A huge ship, kind of like a floating block of Las Vegas, just totally enjoyable way to travel back then. So I think seeing Titanic brought back memories of being on the Mauritania for me, looking down like 3 stories to the water level, and all the going through a couple storms. We were actually diverted north because of a hurricane and could see icebergs from our ship. So, maybe it was that experience that made me really love Titanic more than some other films.
Sure. It's a Wonderful Life just hits me right between the eyes in its message. To me, it says all of us matter.
Yeah, that's true. And like I say, there's a lot of great messages that come through the stories I chose for this book. And everybody will have different ones that, they remember or that influences their life. And I think it's one that, I've not met a single person that didn't thoroughly enjoy reading the book.
Wow.
I think enjoyment is something that is important in a book. There's another nice thing about a book like mine when you're traveling is it's an easy book to pick up and put down because the stories are so short. You can do that without missing a beat. So it's and several of the critics have said it's the perfect book for when you're traveling. But I think it's the perfect book wherever you are and
Sure.
whenever you are.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I would agree with that. Now, when I travel, and I've done a fair amount of international traveling, not in recent years since COVID, I haven't really gone overseas, but prior to that, I went on a fairly regular basis, and while people were playing video games and watching movies and stuff on the plane, which I did watch a few, but primarily I read books.
Right. And that's, that is something that has changed for the years, especially, even though you can read books on your iPhone now, you get tired of, I don't say get tired, but when you do travel or actually go anywhere around, you just see so many people staring at their phones.
Yep.
And I'd much rather be sitting there reading a book.
Well, I physically would have the book in my hand. I guess that probably signifies that we're older, right?
Right.
We're not the young generation. They don't necessarily have that emotional connection with a book that you and I do.
Right.
I don't know if that's the answer or not, but I do know that the name of the book is Life Answers Back. This has a story of, it's got 80 different stories in it, gathered over 15 years, that it sounds like everybody's going to thoroughly enjoy. Uplifting stories. It'll make you laugh. It will make you cry. It will make you just feel, right? The emotions.
Correct. And it's one that I think you'll want to share with other people. If you get a book, when you're done with it, that one review said it doesn't belong on a bookshelf, it's one that you'll want to share with a family member or a friend or anybody that, could use some pickup as far as if they're down at all or whatever. This book will pick them right back up and like say, make them laugh and make them think positive thoughts.
Yeah, one of your reviews says timeless stories of humor and wisdom combined.
Yeah, it's got, like say, when you get 80 different authors, you get 80 different takes and types of stories. And there's just a lot of even education in there. You're going to learn things you never knew. You're not going to just be entertained, but you'll be motivated, inspired. You'll be educated. All the things you want to get out of a book.
Okay.
And it's a book, too, that, like, say, I give it away, or I suggest giving it away to a friend, but you might want to hold on to it and go back because, like, say, I've read some of these stories, I don't know how many times, and I thoroughly enjoy them every time I read them.
Yeah, it's kind of like me when I watch It's a Wonderful Life. I don't miss it any holiday. I still have a tear roll down my cheek.
Right.
And I laugh, too, right, to the angel and everything? No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Dan. I know it's a holiday officially today, and you took time out of your busy schedule to join us, and we appreciate it very much, okay?
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, and I hope that those that do decide to purchase the book thoroughly enjoy it. And my email's in the front of the book, so if you've got thoughts or want to share anything with me, I'd love to hear from you.
All right. Again, Life Answers Back. And folks, have yourselves a great holiday weekend.
You can't predict the future, but you can prepare for it. Arizona State University is building degrees for what's ahead, taught by world-class faculty who are shaping our future. Explore over 350 programs offered online at asuonline.asu.edu.